Huskies football coach Jeff Williams, victory last night over Rochester John Marshall, 26-7. A very impressive second half and fourth quarter for the Huskies.
Yeah, we did some good things, I thought, in the first quarter, establishing the line of scrimmage. But we had a couple of drives that stalled and ended up with 0 points on the board. Went for it on fourth down a couple of times around midfield, which, is always a risky proposition because if you punt it deep, you can, give the other team a long field. And we, I guess gave JM some better field position than they probably deserved. And, and then just, didn't really establish much throughout the rest of the first half. But in the second half, I thought our line really stepped up, kind of took control. We were able to run the ball effectively off tackle, get outside a little bit once in a while, and it started to kind of roll our way. And that was the case both offensively and defensively. Our defensive line did a nice job as well, and we pursued very well to the perimeter. They have great speed, and really other than that little screen pass that they threw in the first half, they didn't get much on the defense last night, and that was really good to see.
With the game tied at 7 apiece, I believe it was in the third quarter where the Rocket player Velez had a pretty good run, but it didn't end so well for him as Soley stripped the ball free. Stask, I think, was the guy that recovered it, and certainly a big play in what was still a tie ball game.
It was a really big play, and Brett Soley really had a very fine night. He did some great things on special teams, some open field tackles, and you could hear pads cracking a couple of times out there, and almost every time that I heard, the big pop, it was number 11. And that was a huge turning point in the game, a great strip, and Staska covered it, and I think the momentum was on our side for the rest of the evening.
You talked, I think, last week on the coaches show about Jason Williamson and how he does a nice job coming out of the eye, coming out of a deep set like that, and he had a huge night yesterday, running in 3 touchdowns and maybe 235 yards.
Yeah, he had like 6.7 yards a carry.
Wow.
That seems to be his kind of modus operandi. What he really likes to do is be deep in that eye and come downhill. We still want to be able to utilize him from the shotgun.
Okay.
It gives us some, in our estimation, better ability to distribute the ball around. But it was a kind of a mucky night. We had probably had an inch of rain over the top of what we'd had all week, and it was a little greasy out there. And you didn't see guys slipping and sliding, but outside or inside the hashes, it was a little bit greasy, and it just gives the running back a little bit better opportunity to get downhill into the hole. And Jason really did a nice job with that, and he's starting to come in his vision and his ability to cut back in underneath pursuing linebackers. And I think we're going to see him pop a couple more as the season progresses, as he, just gains some maturity running against, he's just a sophomore, but running against good varsity defenses, some of the things that you have to do in order to get those extra yards, he's going to continue to learn.
Special teams, you needed a backup punter for one play, and Veach got off a nice punt on one of the PATs. I think it was the second touchdown or the first fourth quarter touchdown where the snap might have been off a little bit, but was handled well and made that extra point. So some special teams things seemed to go very well, and you already commented about Soley making some special teams tackles, so that side seemed to be pretty good for Owatonna last night.
Yeah, I was pleased with our kickoff coverage. We had a really nice lane coverage and kids making plays. We were able to kick the ball to the guys that we wanted to kick the ball to, which is always good because there's usually a weapon back there that you kind of want to avoid, and kickers have a tendency sometimes to punch it to the guys that we don't want them to kick it to. Veach came in I think, a pretty pressure-packed situation. Elstead had dinged up his knee a little bit and came in and directionally punted away from their single return guy and pinned John Marshall deep. And, nice hold. I think it was Jay Sullivan that got the hold down for Barishka's PAT. So, our punt coverage was good. Our punt returns were solid. Jaden Gunderson did a great job of catching the ball in the air and getting a few extra yards. So, at this point in time, special teams seem to be, if not a strength, at least very solid. They aren't hurting us in any way right now.
26-7, the Huskies beat Rochester John Marshall yesterday. I believe that's the 12th straight win over JM. As far as injury notes, Elstad, I think, was back in the game. What about Buckhalter or anyone else that ended up leaving the field yesterday?
Well, Bucky's got a chronic shoulder issue, and it's something that's just going to have to get kind of figured out. The docs and TC are, trying to construct a plan right now to see what we can do to stabilize that shoulder for Chandler, so that he's able to go, moving forward. He's a big force. He wants to play badly. He was very, very disappointed that he got pulled last night and wasn't able to return to play. This is a kid with a big football future, and we've got to figure out a way that we can get him out there so that he can continue, to pursue that. And he's a big part of our plan, so I'm very hopeful that becomes feasible moving forward.
Faribault scored a big win yesterday over Red Wing, 41-0. They were with Mayo in a chance to tie the game in week 1 in the third quarter. Didn't do it. Mayo won by a couple of scores. What do you think about the Falcons for next week?
Well, they've got quite a few kids back on defense. They were a team that struggled pretty mightily throughout the course of the season. Now, that said, they beat what turned out to be a pretty good Mankato East team in the playoffs. And I think those kids, have continued to gel and mature, and their defense is going to be better than it was last year. They've got a third-year starting quarterback in Hart. It's about a 6'7" kid, and we've seen him since he was a sophomore. A very nice quarterback. They've got the Ramirez kid back at fullback. I think he was, pushing 200 yards, 170 yards last night in the game with Red Wing, and I don't think he played much after the half, from what I understand. So, they're going to be a much improved football team from where they were a year ago. Those kids have a lot of experience under their belt now, and they've got a couple of pretty good performances under their belt. Obviously, getting after Red Wing and hanging in with what everybody believes is going to be a pretty good Mayo team. So, we're going to have to get back to work. There's things that we need to shore up, that we need to get better at. There will be a reason for us to practice this week. This Faribault is going to loom large for us here on Friday night.
Nice win yesterday over JM, 26-7. Huskies 1-1 on the season. Owatonna coach Jeff Williams, thank you for the time and good luck next week.
Hey, thanks, Roy.
Coach's Show on KRFO.